Welcome to the deep dive. We're going to be looking at cross-dressing today,
Oh, yeah.
but we're really getting into like a personal view on it.
Okay.
You gave me this firsthand story from a guy who says he's straight, but he finds like a lot of fulfillment in cross-dressing.
Interesting.
He really digs deep into like why he does it and what it all means to him.
Okay.
So get ready because we're about to explore some pretty fascinating stuff
Sounds good.
about identity, sensuality,
Yeah.
and how all this pushes back against what society normally expects.
I mean, this is something that people try to oversimplify all the time or
Correct.
just completely misunderstand, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So this deep dive is really a chance for us to see the nuance
Absolutely.
and how, like, people's real experiences, they don't always fit neatly into the boxes we try to put them in.
You know, what's interesting is right off the bat,
Yeah.
this author, he calls his cross-dressing persona Jenn.
Okay.
And he says it's not just like a simple fetish thing. He uses words like escape and alter ego.
Oh, wow.
And he even says it helps him be more productive when he's working from home.
That's really intriguing how he connects it with, like,
I know.
functionality and even, like you said, his identity.
Yeah.
It really pushes back against that idea.
It does.
That cross-dressing is only about sexual gratification.
Totally.
There's something deeper here that we need to, like, wrap our heads around.
And it's funny, he even mentions that he has more matching lingerie sets than his wife does.
Wow. Okay.
It's like he's creating this whole Jenn persona, while his wife's approach to clothing is way more, like, practical.
It makes you think about how we view women in society and this whole concept of sexiness.
Yeah.
You know, he talks about dressing as a stereotypically sexy working woman.
Yeah.
Something his wife just doesn't do.
Right.
So is he, like, yearning for something he feels is missing?
Interesting.
Or is it more about exploring a different side of himself?
It's a good question because he grapples with that himself in the article.
Yeah.
He wonders if his wife's practical style somehow makes him enjoy dressing sexy even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he even says he feels a hole that needs to be filled through this,
Oh, yeah.
like through this expression of himself.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder,
It does.
is this yearning for a certain type of sexy?
Mm-hmm.
Is that really just something women feel?
Right.
Or is it something men feel too,
Yeah.
but they're just not allowed to express?
That's a powerful question.
It is.
It really makes you think about if societal expectations
Yeah.
are kind of limiting both men and women when it comes to, like, exploring
Yeah.
and expressing certain parts of themselves,
Right.
especially around sensuality.
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
speaking of sensuality,
Okay.
he describes feeling like super aroused
Mm-hmm.
when he's intimate with his wife
Yeah.
while he's dressed as Jenn.
Okay.
And he actually calls it a simulated lesbian experience.
Wow. So this is where things get really...
I know it's complicated.
Yeah.
We're definitely getting into territory that blurs the lines
Totally.
of like typical sexual identity labels.
Right.
But he's very clear about the fact
Yeah.
that this actually reinforces his attraction to women.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change it,
Okay.
but he's experiencing like a different part of it,
Interesting.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's not about judging his experience.
Right.
It's about trying to understand it.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like his story shows just how complex human sexuality can be
It really does.
and how personal experiences can challenge all of our preconceived notions about things.
Totally. Like, his experience is a good reminder
It is.
that there isn't just one definition of identity,
Yeah.
of desire, or how people express those things.
You know, it's interesting.
Yeah.
He's very adamant that this cross-dressing,
Mm-hmm.
it isn't a reflection on his wife at all
Okay.
or anything that she's lacking.
Gotcha.
He sees it as like a fundamental part of himself.
Right.
Like this need to express himself
Yeah.
that makes his life feel whole.
That's so crucial for people to understand.
I think so too.
You know, it really emphasizes that for him.
Yeah.
This is a personal journey,
It is.
not a response to something missing in his relationship.
Right.
It does make you wonder, though, what would happen if his wife, like,
Yeah.
really embraced a more sexy style?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Would that change things for him?
He actually thinks about that in the article.
Was he?
Yeah. And he concludes that it wouldn't change his core desire to cross-dress at all. He's like, I enjoy both guy mode and girl mode.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
He finds it important to express both.
Interesting.
So it makes you think about what really drives this behavior for him.
So is it internal motivation or external triggers?
Yeah.
It seems like he's saying it's coming from inside him,
It seems like it. Yeah.
like this need to fulfill a part of himself.
Right.
regardless of what his wife does.
He even says that seeing his wife dress sexier
Really?
would probably make him want to dress up too.
Wow.
To like match her sexiness.
That's
And it adds another layer to his motivations.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it?
It suggests a desire for like a shared experience.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a way to connect with his wife on a different level.
I see what you're saying.
It's not about one person filling a void in the other.
Right.
It's about both of them exploring and expressing themselves in a way that brings them closer.
So what we're seeing here is a man who's really pushing against those societal norms.
Yeah.
Figuring out his own identity
Uh-huh.
and searching for a way to express a side of himself that he feels like traditional masculinity doesn't allow for.
Right.
He even describes it as filling a hole,
Yeah.
like this longing for a feeling that he associates with being a woman.
This leads us to a thought-provoking question then.
I think so too.
Is this yearning for this kind of sexy, is that really unique to women?
Right.
Or is it something that men feel too?
It's a good question.
But they're often discouraged from exploring.
That's a great point, and it really makes you wonder if societal expectations could be limiting everyone, regardless of gender, from expressing their full selves.
Absolutely. I agree. You know, it's fascinating how this whole deep dive is making us really rethink all those assumptions we have about gender identity and expression.
Absolutely. And going back to this guy's experience, he describes this feeling of being sexy as Jenn in a way that he just doesn't feel as a man. You know? He even describes a scenario where his wife's intimate with him while he's dressed as Jenn. And he says that feeling is totally different.
Wow.
Than when the roles are reversed.
That's really interesting.
It is.
It highlights the importance of that feeling of sensuality to his whole experience.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's tapping into like a different part of himself, a part that can only be expressed through this cross-dressing persona.
He even says that any man who hasn't tried cross-dressing and experiencing that role reversal has no idea what they're missing.
Wow. He makes it sound like transformative, like it's opened up this whole new dimension to his life and his relationships.
We do have to remember, though,
Yeah.
that this is just one person's experience.
Right.
We can't generalize it
Of course not.
to all men or even all people who cross-dress.
Right.
But it does give us some valuable insight, I think, into the motivations and the feelings that can be involved.
It's about understanding and respecting individual experiences and acknowledging that there's diversity in human desire and how people choose to express it.
He goes on to talk about like the social pressures and the stigmas around cross-dressing.
Makes sense.
And he expresses his gratitude that he's able to experience it in a safe and supportive environment.
Yeah, it seems like he's really aware of the societal context and the potential for people to misunderstand it.
Totally.
But he also makes it clear that this is a core part of who he is and that he wouldn't feel whole without it.
It's a powerful statement of self-acceptance, I think.
It is.
Like owning his truth, even though he knows it might not be universally understood or accepted.
It all circles back to his point.
It does.
About it not being a reflection on his wife.
Right.
He's not trying to like fill a void in his relationship.
No.
Or compensate for something that she isn't doing.
Yeah.
This is about fulfilling his own internal needs.
Exactly. It's about self-discovery and self-expression, not about seeking something externally that he feels is missing.
It's an important distinction.
It is.
Especially with a topic that's surrounded by so many misconceptions.
Totally. It challenges the idea that cross-dressing is always a reaction to something outside the person. Like a problem in the relationship or desire to deceive people.
Right.
You know, in his case, it's about embracing like a core aspect of his identity.
It's about authenticity.
It is.
Like being true to himself, even if it goes against what society says is normal.
You know, he seems to have found a way to integrate both like guy mode and girl mode into his life.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
It suggests a level of self-awareness and acceptance
Yeah.
that a lot of people,
Right.
regardless of whether they cross-dress, might aspire to.
He's embracing the different sides of himself
It sounds like it.
and finding fulfillment in expressing them all.
And by doing that, he's kind of encouraging us,
in a way,
to rethink what it means to be human. I like that.
To embrace the complexity of identity and desire.
Okay, so he leaves us with this really interesting thought.
Okay.
That even if his wife dressed up more often, it wouldn't diminish his own desire to cross-dress. In fact, he thinks it might actually make it even stronger.
That speaks to the idea.
It does.
That his cross-dressing isn't about getting validation from his wife.
Right.
Or trying to get her to change.
Yeah.
It's about this inner desire to embody a feeling, a certain energy.
Which talks about wanting to, like, match her sexiness.
Oh, wow.
Almost like it's this playful exchange they can share together.
It introduces this whole element of shared experience.
Yeah.
A way of connecting with his wife.
Right.
On this whole other level.
It's not about one person fulfilling a need in the other one.
No. It's about both of them.
Yeah.
Exploring and expressing themselves in a way that brings them closer together. It kind of reframes cross-dressing.
In a way.
As something that can actually, like, enhance connection. And intimacy.
Right.
Rather than creating distance or division.
It challenges us to think about how we approach our own relationship with more openness.
Absolutely.
And a willingness to embrace the unexpected.
It's about creating space, I think, for both partners to really be themselves.
Yes.
Even if it means stepping outside of those societal expectations. Or comfort zones.
Which ultimately brings us back.
It does.
To what this deep dive has been all about.
It does.
Challenging those assumptions. Expanding our understanding of what it means to be human. And embracing the beauty of individuality.
It's been a fascinating journey so far.
It has.
And I'm really curious to see where else this conversation takes us.
I agree.
So it almost sounds like he's saying that they could explore this whole sexy feeling together.
It is an interesting idea.
Right.
It really challenges the idea that cross-dressing is something that, like, pushes couples apart.
Right.
He's saying it could be a way to connect with his wife more deeply.
Yeah, and it makes you think about all the different ways.
I know, right?
We connect with our partners.
Yeah.
Emotionally and physically.
Totally. It encourages us to be open.
It does.
To new experiences.
Yeah.
To, like, explore all of our desires, both as individuals and as a couple.
So we've really dug into this guy's personal experience.
We have.
With cross-dressing.
Yeah.
He shared his reasons for doing it, his struggles with how society views it.
Right.
And his desire for this sexy feeling.
Yeah.
That he thinks men don't usually get to have.
And through all of that, he's challenged us to really look at our own assumptions.
I think so too.
About gender and how we express it.
He's shown us that cross-dressing can be about so much more.
Yeah, so much more.
Than just a fetish.
Right.
Or wanting to trick people.
It can be this journey of self-discovery.
Totally.
A way to connect more deeply with the partner. And a really powerful way to challenge what society tells us is normal.
His experience really shows us
that
there's no one right way to be human.
Absolutely.
We all have our own unique desires.
We do.
Our own needs and our own ways of expressing ourselves.
And that's something we should celebrate.
Totally. Not shame.
What do you think are some of the big takeaways?
That's
a good question.
From this deep dive into the world of cross-dressing.
For me, it's a reminder to be open-minded.
Okay.
To have empathy and to question all those ideas we have in our heads.
It's about recognizing that everyone's experience is different.
It is.
And what might seem weird to us might actually be super important to someone else.
It's also about making space to talk about these things.
Yeah, for sure.
To get rid of the stigma and to understand each other better.
As we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with one last thought.
Right.
What if, instead of focusing on labels and putting people into boxes, we focused on creating a world where everyone feels like they can express themselves in a way that feels true to them?
Really good question.
What do you think that world would look like?
That's a really powerful question.
It is.
And one I hope we all keep thinking about.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
On this deep dive.
It's been great.
Into such a complex and often misunderstood topic.
It has.
Until next time.
Yes.
Keep exploring and keep questioning.